I'm Maya, 32 years old, and I remember the day we first drove into Harmony Creek, a quaint little town nestled in the heart of New England. The autumn leaves were ablaze with color, and the air smelled crisp, promising a fresh start. My husband, David, and I had dreamed of raising our daughter, Lily, in a place with strong community ties. We had left the hustle of the city behind, seeking a quieter life, a place where neighbors knew each other and kids could play freely. Harmony Creek seemed to embody everything we had envisioned. Its charming Main Street, the historic town square, and the welcoming signs all painted a picture of idyllic small-town living. Our new house, a cozy Victorian with a wraparound porch, felt like a dream come true. It was exactly what we had been searching for, a place to put down roots and truly belong. We spent our first few weeks unpacking, exploring the local shops, and getting a feel for the rhythm of the town. Everyone we met, from the postman to the grocery store clerk, offered a polite nod or a friendly, "Welcome to Harmony Creek." It felt genuinely warm, a stark contrast to the anonymity of our previous urban life. We were optimistic about our new chapter here. Lily, with her boundless energy, was excited about the prospect of new friends and a big backyard. David was looking forward to the slower pace, and I, a passionate baker, was eager to find a local market where I could share my creations. We quickly noticed that our street, Maple Avenue, was particularly close-knit. Neighbors often chatted over fences, children rode bikes freely, and there was a palpable sense of shared history. It was exactly the kind of community we had hoped for. However, as days turned into weeks, a subtle pattern began to emerge. While people were polite, there was a certain distance, an invisible barrier that seemed to prevent true connection. We were always greeted, but rarely invited. It was a feeling I knew well, a familiar chill that crept in despite the outward warmth. As one of the few black families in Harmony Creek, and certainly on Maple Avenue, I couldn't shake the feeling that our presence was noted, but not entirely embraced. I tried to initiate conversations, offering smiles and small talk, but interactions often remained superficial. It felt like we were always on the periphery, observing the community from a slight remove, never quite stepping into its inner circle. The children on the street played together, but Lily, despite her outgoing nature, often found herself on the edges of their games. It was heartbreaking to watch her try so hard to join in, only to be met with polite but firm exclusion. David and I discussed it late at night, whispering our observations. We didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the pattern was becoming undeniable. It wasn't overt hostility, but a quiet, persistent exclusion. We reminded ourselves that building connections takes time, especially in a town where families had lived for generations. We resolved to be patient, to keep reaching out, and to show Harmony Creek the genuine, friendly people we were. I started baking extra treats, hoping to share them with our neighbors, a small gesture of goodwill and an attempt to break the ice. I believe that food, especially homemade, had a way of bringing people together. But even these efforts were met with polite refusals or quick thanks, without any reciprocal invitations. The barrier remained, a silent acknowledgement that while we were physically present, we weren't yet truly part of the fabric of Harmony Creek. Despite these growing concerns, a part of me still held on to the hope that this was just a phase, that soon we would truly feel at home. I believed in the good intentions of people, and I was determined to find our place here. As spring transitioned into summer, the signs of community life in Harmony Creek became even more pronounced. Town events filled the local calendar, from farmers markets to outdoor concerts in the park. We attended them all, hoping to bridge the gap. We'd wave to neighbors, offer friendly greetings, and try to engage in conversations about local happenings. People would smile and nod, but their eyes often seemed to glance away, as if searching for someone else. The children on our street, particularly, seemed to have an unspoken code. They would play together in groups, but Lily was consistently left out of their impromptu games and gatherings. It was a painful sight for a parent. We noticed that our neighbors, the Millers and the Johnsons, frequently had small gatherings in their backyards. Laughter and music would drift over the fence, and we'd see familiar faces from around the neighborhood. We'd often wonder if we were simply missing an invitation, or if these were just spontaneous get-togethers. However, as the weeks passed, it became clear that these were regular occurrences, and we were never included. The most anticipated event of the summer was the annual Maple Avenue Summer Barbecue. It was a tradition, a cornerstone of the neighborhood's social calendar, and everyone talked about it with great excitement. I overheard snippets of conversations about it while walking Lily to the park or while picking up mail. Neighbors discussed potluck dishes, decorations, and who was bringing what. It sounded like a truly festive occasion. Lily, innocent and observant, asked me one afternoon, "Mommy, are we going to the big party at the Miller's house?" My heart sank a little, knowing I had no answer for her. The question hung in the air between us. I tried to act nonchalant, telling her that maybe we would, or that we could have our own special barbecue. But inside, a knot of disappointment tightened. The lack of an invitation was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. It wasn't just about a party, it was about belonging, about being seen and acknowledged as part of the community. The barbecue was a symbol, a clear indicator of who was in and who was out. David and I talked about it again, our conversations now tinged with a quiet frustration. We had done everything we could think of to integrate, to show our friendly intentions, but it seemed to make no difference. We considered approaching someone, perhaps the Millers, to ask about the barbecue, but the thought felt awkward and forced. We shouldn't have to ask for an invitation to something that was clearly for everyone on the street. The silence, the unspoken exclusion, was more painful than any direct confrontation. It left us questioning ourselves, wondering if we were misinterpreting things, or if there was something we were missing. But deep down, I knew what it was. It was the familiar sting of being an outsider, of being judged not by who I was, but by what I looked like. It was the subtle, insidious nature of prejudice. We resolved to spend the day of the barbecue quietly at home, perhaps having our own small family celebration. It was a way to reclaim our peace, to not let the exclusion define our summer. The day of the Maple Avenue Summer Barbecue arrived, bright and sunny, almost mockingly perfect. From our backyard, we could hear the distant sounds of laughter, music, and the sizzle of grills. It was a constant, painful reminder. Lily, dressed in her favorite summer dress, kept looking expectantly towards the Miller's house, her small face etched with confusion. "Are they going to call us, Mommy?" she asked, her voice small and hopeful. My heart ached as I explained, as gently as I could, that sometimes people have their own parties, and that ours would be just as fun. It was a hollow explanation, and I knew she sensed it. We tried to distract ourselves, playing games in the yard, reading stories, but the festive sounds from next door were a constant presence. Each burst of laughter felt like a direct message. "You are not here." I found myself watching from our kitchen window, catching glimpses of our neighbors, dressed in their summer best, mingling and embracing. It was a tableau of community, one we were clearly not a part of. A wave of sadness washed over me, heavy and encompassing. It wasn't just about missing a party, it was about the rejection, the feeling of being invisible in a place we had chosen to call home. This wasn't the overt racism I had sometimes encountered in larger cities, the hateful slurs or direct confrontations. This was far more subtle, a quiet dismissal that chipped away at your sense of worth. It made you question yourself, wonder if you were overreacting, if you were being too sensitive. But the consistent pattern, the polite but firm distance, spoke volumes without uttering a single word. I remember my grandmother's words. Sometimes, honey, the loudest messages are the ones that aren't spoken. Her wisdom resonated deeply in that moment, confirming what my gut already knew. David came and put an arm around me, sensing my quiet despair. "It's okay, Maya," he whispered. "We'll find our people. We'll make our own community right here." His words were comforting, but the sting remained. I thought about all the efforts I had made, the friendly gestures, the baked goods I had offered. It felt like I had poured my heart out, only for it to be met with a polite, impenetrable wall. The silence from their side of the fence was deafening. It wasn't just an absence of invitation, it was an absence of curiosity, an absence of genuine welcome that felt deeply personal. As the afternoon wore on, the sounds from the barbecue grew louder, more boisterous. It was a celebration of togetherness, and we were distinctly, painfully, alone in our own backyard. I closed the kitchen blinds, needing a break from the visual reminder of our exclusion. It was a small act of self-preservation, a way to shield my heart from further disappointment. But even with the blinds drawn, The weight of the exclusion lingered, a heavy blanket of sadness that settled over our home. It was a difficult day, a stark reminder that belonging was not always guaranteed. That evening, after Lily had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from a day of trying to understand why she couldn't join the fun, I found myself in the quiet solace of my kitchen. The lingering sounds of the barbecue had finally faded. I stood there, surrounded by the familiar comfort of my baking tools, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and a growing determination. I wouldn't let this quiet exclusion diminish my spirit or my passion. Baking had always been my refuge, my creative outlet, a way to express myself when words failed. It was a connection to my heritage, to the recipes passed down through generations of strong women in my family. I thought about my grandmother, a woman who had faced far greater challenges with unwavering grace and resilience. She had taught me that true strength wasn't about fighting every battle, but about finding joy and purpose within yourself. Her recipes weren't just ingredients and instructions. They were stories, memories, and a legacy of love. Each dish carried the essence of our culture, the rich flavors and aromas that spoke of home and belonging. I decided then and there that I would channel my emotions into my art, into my baking. I would create something truly extraordinary, something that spoke of my identity, my history, and my unique perspective. I pulled out my grandmother's old recipe book, its pages worn and stained with years of love. I decided to perfect her signature sweet potato pie, a dish that was both comforting and exquisitely flavorful. I spent hours in the kitchen, meticulously measuring, mixing, and kneading. The rhythmic process was therapeutic, allowing me to focus my mind and channel my feelings into something beautiful and delicious. I experimented with new spices, refined the crust, and perfected the delicate balance of sweetness and warmth. Each adjustment brought me closer to the perfect rendition of a dish that was deeply personal to me. This wasn't about proving anything to anyone on Maple Avenue. It was about reclaiming my own narrative, finding my voice through the language of food. It was about creating something authentically mine. David found me in the early hours of the morning, surrounded by the sweet aroma of freshly baked pies. He smiled, understanding without words that this was my way of processing, my way of healing. "They smell incredible, Maya," he whispered, taking a deep, appreciative breath. "You truly have a gift." His words were a balm to my soul, a reminder of the love and support that truly mattered. I realized that my talent wasn't just a hobby, it was a part of who I was, a source of strength and joy. It was something I could share, not to gain acceptance, but to offer a piece of myself. As the sun rose over Harmony Creek, casting a golden glow on our kitchen, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The exclusion from the barbecue still stung, but it no longer held the power to define me. Instead, it had ignited a spark, a quiet determination to share my unique flavor with the world on my own terms. My sweet potato pies were more than just dessert, they were a testament to my resilience. A few weeks after the barbecue, a flyer arrived in our mailbox announcing the annual Harmony Creek Fall Festival. It was a much larger event than the neighborhood gatherings, held in the town square, open to everyone. The flyer detailed various activities, craft stalls, live music, children's games, and a section dedicated to local food vendors. My eyes immediately landed on the words, "homemade baked goods booths." An idea began to form, hesitant at first, then growing stronger with each passing moment. This could be my chance, not to confront, but to connect, to share my passion for baking with the wider community of Harmony Creek. I hesitated, remembering the sting of the barbecue. Would I be met with the same polite indifference, or worse, outright dismissal? The thought was daunting, but the desire to share my creations was stronger. David encouraged me, reminding me of the incredible feedback I always received from friends and family. "Your pies are truly special, Maya," he said. "People deserve to taste them." His belief in me was unwavering. I decided to take the leap. I filled out the vendor application, carefully listing my specialty, unique, culturally inspired sweet potato pies and other baked goods. I sent it off with a mix of hope and trepidation. A few days later, I received an email confirming my booth at the Harmony Creek Fall Festival. A small surge of excitement, mixed with nerves, coursed through me. This was really happening. I spent the next few weeks preparing, baking in small batches, perfecting my recipes, and designing a simple but inviting display for my booth. I wanted it to reflect the warmth and authenticity of my creations. Lily, sensing my excitement, would often peek into the kitchen, asking about the special pies I was making. I told her this was my way of sharing happiness with people, one delicious bite at a time. I chose a variety of my signature items: the classic sweet potato pie, a spiced apple tart with a hint of ginger, and small, individual pecan bites. Each one was a labor of love, crafted with care. I also prepared small cards detailing the ingredients and the inspiration behind each recipe, hoping to offer a glimpse into the stories behind the flavors. It was important to me to share the cultural context. As the festival day approached, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't about seeking validation. It was about offering a piece of myself, my heritage, and my passion to a community I still hope to call home. I knew there was a risk of disappointment, that some might still choose to ignore me. But I also knew that if I didn't try, I would never truly know if Harmony Creek was capable of embracing diversity. My booth was ready, my pies were baked, and my spirit was fortified. I was ready to step out of the shadows of exclusion and into the light of shared experience, one delicious pastry at a time. The Fall Festival was more than just an event. It was a test of my resilience and the true spirit of Harmony Creek. I was determined to face it with an open heart and a confident smile. The morning of the Harmony Creek Fall Festival dawned crisp and clear, a perfect autumn day. David and Lily helped me set up my booth, a charming display adorned with rustic tablecloths and baskets of my baked goods. My heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and anxiety as the first festival-goers began to arrive. I smiled at passers-by, offering a friendly good morning and inviting them to sample my creations. Initially, many people walked past, their eyes scanning my booth briefly before moving on. I saw some familiar faces from Maple Avenue who offered a polite nod but didn't stop. The familiar sting of invisibility began to creep in. I took a deep breath, reminding myself of my purpose. This wasn't about them, it was about sharing my passion. I focused on arranging my pies, ensuring each one looked as inviting as it tasted. Then, a young couple, drawn by the warm, inviting aroma of cinnamon and nutmeg, paused at my booth. "What is that incredible smell?" the woman asked, her eyes widening as she spotted the sweet potato pies. I offered them a small sample of the sweet potato pie. They took a bite, and their expressions immediately shifted from curiosity to pure delight. "This is amazing!" the man exclaimed, his eyes lighting up. Word began to spread. The couple bought a whole pie and raved about it to their friends, who then came to my booth. Soon, a small crowd started to gather, drawn by the growing buzz and the irresistible scent. People who had walked past earlier now circled back, their curiosity piqued. They sampled my pecan bites and apple tarts, their initial skepticism melting away with each delicious mouthful. I watched as expressions of polite indifference transformed into genuine smiles and exclamations of surprise. "I've never tasted anything like this," one woman exclaimed, her eyes wide with appreciation. A line began to form at my booth, growing steadily longer as the morning progressed. I was busy, but in the best possible way, engaging with customers, sharing the stories behind my recipes. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the connection. People were asking questions, not just about the ingredients, but about my baking journey, about where I learned to create such unique flavors. I saw Mrs. Miller, my next-door neighbor, standing hesitantly at the edge of the crowd. Her expression was unreadable, a mix of surprise and something akin to recognition. She eventually joined the line. When it was her turn, she approached my booth, a slight blush on her cheeks. "Maya, these are truly wonderful," she said, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. She bought a sweet potato pie. The aroma of my pies, once a private comfort, was now filling the air of the Harmony Creek town square, drawing people in, breaking down barriers that words alone could not. It was a truly remarkable feeling. As the day progressed, my booth became one of the most popular at the Harmony Creek Fall Festival. The line remained consistently long, a testament to the power of authentic flavor and genuine connection. I saw faces from all corners of Harmony Creek, people I had only seen from a distance, now eagerly waiting to try my baked goods. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere around my stall. The initial politeness was replaced by genuine warmth and curiosity. People weren't just buying, they were engaging, asking about my family, about our move to Harmony Creek, about my baking philosophy. One elderly gentleman, a longtime resident, approached me with a twinkle in his eye. "Young lady," he said, "these pies remind me of my grandmother's kitchen. You've brought something truly special to our town." His words resonated deeply, a powerful affirmation that my heritage, once a source of subtle division, was now being celebrated. It felt like a true embrace, a recognition of my unique contribution. Later in the afternoon, Mayor Thompson, a respected figure in Harmony Creek, stopped by my booth. He had heard the buzz and wanted to sample my creations himself. He took a bite of the sweet potato pie. His eyes widened in surprise and delight. "Maya," he exclaimed, "this is absolutely exquisite. We are so fortunate to have such talent in Harmony Creek. You must consider opening a shop here." His public praise was a turning point. Other vendors and festival-goers looked on, and his endorsement seemed to solidify my place, not just as a baker, but as a valued member of the community. Mrs. Johnson, another neighbor from Maple Avenue, approached me later, a hesitant smile on her face. "Maya," she began, I had no idea. Your baking is truly extraordinary. We've been missing out." Her words weren't an explicit apology for the barbecue, but they carried the weight of a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition of a missed connection. It was a small but significant step towards understanding. I simply smiled, offering her a fresh pecan bite. "Thank you," I said. "I'm just happy to share." There was no need for grand declarations. The food had spoken for itself, bridging the unspoken divide. Lily, who had been helping me hand out napkins, beamed with pride. She saw her mother, not as the excluded neighbor, but as the beloved baker, surrounded by smiling faces and genuine appreciation. The success of the day wasn't just measured in sales, it was measured in the smiles, the conversations, and the genuine connections that were finally being forged. The sweet aroma had truly paved the way. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the town square, I felt a profound sense of peace. My talent had not only amazed, but it had also opened doors that had previously been closed. Harmony Creek was beginning to see me, not as the black neighbor, but as Maya, the talented baker, a woman who brought unique flavors and a warm spirit to their community. The change was palpable. The Harmony Creek Fall Festival was a turning point for us. In the days and weeks that followed, the subtle distance that had defined our interactions with neighbors began to dissipate, replaced by genuine warmth. Invitations started to arrive, not just polite nods, but explicit invitations to coffee, to playdates for Lily, and to casual gatherings. Our phone, once quiet, now chimed with messages from new friends. Mrs. Miller and Mrs. Johnson, who had once kept their distance, now stopped by our porch for impromptu chats, sharing gardening tips and local gossip. It felt like the invisible barrier had finally crumbled. Lily found herself included in neighborhood games, no longer on the periphery, but at the heart of the fun. Her laughter, once a rare sound in our backyard, now echoed freely with her new friends. I received several requests to cater local events, from church potlucks to school fundraisers. My sweet potato pies became a beloved staple, and my reputation as Harmony Creek's go-to baker grew rapidly. The mayor's suggestion to open a shop lingered in my mind. With David's encouragement and the overwhelming positive response from the community, I began to explore the possibility of opening a small bakery on Main Street. It was a daunting prospect, but the thought of sharing my passion on a larger scale, of creating a space where everyone felt welcome, filled me with excitement. Harmony Creek was slowly becoming home in a way I hadn't imagined. I realized that true belonging wasn't about being invited to every party, it was about being seen, valued, and accepted for who you are. My talent had been the catalyst, but the genuine connections were the reward. The experience taught me that while prejudice can be subtle and painful, resilience and authenticity can pave the way for understanding. Sometimes, the most powerful statements are made not with words, but with actions and creations. I still remember the sting of the barbecue, but it no longer held power over me. It had, in fact, spurred me to embrace my talent more fully, to share it with a world that was ready to be amazed. Harmony Creek, with its strong sense of community, had learned a valuable lesson. It had opened its heart, slowly but surely, to the richness that diversity brings, to the unique flavors that make life more vibrant. Our home on Maple Avenue felt truly lived in, filled with laughter, the aroma of baking, and the warmth of genuine friendships. We were no longer just residents, we were integral parts of the community. My journey in Harmony Creek was a testament to the idea that sometimes the very things that seem to exclude us can become the stepping stones to our greatest triumphs and deepest connections. I found peace not just in the acceptance, but in the knowledge that I had stayed true to myself, using my gift to build bridges where walls once stood. My talent had indeed amazed them all, but it had also healed me. And as I look out from my kitchen window now, watching Lily play freely with her friends, I know that Harmony Creek is not just a place we live, but a place where we truly belong, a place where our unique story continues to unfold.